What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Wave podcast. Today we're covering episode 4 of season 3 of Euphoria. A lot happened. So we're just going to get kind of right into it. Today I'm going to be one of your hosts. I'm Liz Seiko. We're joined by DJ Darian Scalamoni.
What's up, everybody?
Okay, DJ. So a lot happened in this episode. Personally, for me, this is the best episode for me out of season 3. What about you?
Yeah, I would say the same. I think that it's not a major step up from what we had said last week, but I do think coming into this episode, we're definitely more, I would probably skew a bit more, I'm looking forward to the progression at this point now, because I felt like last week when we talked about a lot of things, I felt like a lot of things were stagnant. They really overhyped the wedding to where I think it was basically a very obvious marketing ploy, because now it seems like that whole entire thing doesn't matter going forward, or at least that's the way this episode kind of plays it out. But yeah, I would say this is probably my favorite episode as well, but that's not saying too much.
Not saying too much, and the fact that there's only eight episodes in this season,
Mid-season.
So we're at the halfway point, which to me, okay, it does feel good right now where this episode ended for a halfway point, because I think out of the 4 main plots now that this episode covered, 3 of them have progressed pretty well, anticipation-wise. Well, I can't really talk about the content because it is like there's a certain level of like the topics that they're still covering that Sam Levinson is writing about that I just think is crazy. But I think the trajectory of Nate's character and now where Maddy and Cassie are and then where Rue is, I think those 3 plot lines have really progressed, and I'm excited to see what the next episode has for them. As for Hunter Schafer and Maud Apatow, what was this episode for them?
What are we doing? What are we doing with these characters? I talked about this last week, how I felt that, again, we knew that Sharon Stone was going to be in it. She does basically, again, cameo in this episode for a bit. We just have a moment of her basically demoralizing Lexi and just being like, you know, like you made hundreds of thousands of dollars of mistakes in one play. And this is yet another example of giving Jules something to do with no explanation on why Jules is doing what she's doing. And I'm so sick of the way that we have to interpret for ourselves with no understanding. Jules, I think, is the most underwritten character in this entire series. And there are moments where it's a credit to Hunter Schafer as an actress, because she's able to do a lot with what she's been given over the last 3 seasons. But this season in particular, I have no idea where they're going with her character. It's kind of crazy to say this, and I hope this doesn't come off as insensitive, but she is given the same amount of attention that Angus Cloud is given, and he's no longer with us. Fez is not a character that we can literally ever see or hear ever again in the show, and Rue has now had 2 conversations with him, and again, there's another nod to him in this episode where Rue is looking at her background multiple times about maybe having this realization or thought process of like, what would Fez do in this situation? Where Jules, we just get this whole odd sequence where Lexi decides to call her to paint this mural in the background of a scene, and it becomes this erotic, grotesque kind of interpretation of this iconic photo, Sundays in the Park with George, right? Is what it is. And
they all have penises.
They all have penises, and there's no explanation on why that is. We don't know why Jules decided to do something like that. We know that it deeply affects her when she's told by the studio heads that she needs to completely change the portrait. She needs to put clothing on them, and she can't express herself in that way. And she gets so upset that she starts throwing buckets of paint on the painting and ruining it. And it's very high art, weird kind of. I don't get it. It's very ego is not the word I'm looking for, but what's the word I'm looking for? Where you're just so full of yourself. It's very
like self-indulgent.
Yeah, I would say it's self-indulgent on behalf of, like, again, Sam Levinson, and I don't know what he's going for in terms of what he's trying to tell with this whole thing with Lexi and Jules makes no sense to me.
No sense to me either. I think that it showed it, because I think that the other characters are now starting to get a little bit more meat, and like more progression in their characters for them to like play with. And I just feel like it now made this scene stick out even more of how misplaced it is, and that it really isn't telling the story at all, unless it's trying to put Lexi in a position of needing to deliver to her job. But like, she needed to do that anyway. She's like the lowest person on the totem pole right now. So like, we didn't need to see that she's put down even lower through this. And if anything, I think that it just shows that Sam's writing isn't that great for Jules, because the way that he's able to show her frustration is just by her having the temper tantrum and wrecking this painting, when it's like, realistically, if she just got hired for the first time to make a painting, yeah, you're going to be disappointed when they give you the feedback, but you're going to shut up and you're going to like fix it the way that you need it to, because you're finally a working painter. And I think that Jules's character has that awareness. I don't think that she's so narcissistic to think that she's such an incredible artist that she doesn't need to take these notes from people that are paying her. I think that she is aware that she still needs to answer to them because they hired her. So I think that it was very out of character.
I don't disagree with you, but I think the bigger problem is that we haven't dove into the real psychology of who Jules is. Because for me, it's almost that we've seen, again, unfortunately, it's like we've seen the physical harassment and issues that Jules has gone through a 3-season trajectory with her character. But yet we really still have no real sense or articulation around what she thinks.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, because like I don't even have necessarily, I don't have a problem with what she did, because even in terms of, it seems like the way that the character is going, it's like she's almost basically abandoned her love of art, because she's just hanging around now, just smoking and watching, what's she watching, like Love Island, like just sitting in her room. And she's like, I'm working. So she clearly doesn't give a shit, because she's making money doing what she's doing. But like you said, when she's given this opportunity, if they're going to go in the direction of being like, no, like she's obviously frustrated with her doing what she did, like why? Like what is it about, other than Lexi just saying, well, she's trans? It's like, that's not an explanation for a character. Just because the character identifies as trans, that doesn't mean that that's now going to give the audience be like, we get it now. So because she's trans, this is going to be a problem going forward. It doesn't make a lot of sense, and there's no depth to her character. It's unfortunate because, like you said too, there are some things in this episode where we start to see some growth from some characters, but there's always going to be a character being sidelined because of the way that overall he writes females. It's hard.
Unfortunately, they are just really having not great progression in their storyline right now. I hope more for them in the next episode, but I just don't know. I mean, it looks like Lexi's still going to be around. I just don't know like if it's really going to be that much for her to chew on. Yeah. But then jumping to a total different storyline, we got Rue.
MVP of the show constantly.
For real.
Zendaya is just like holding down the fort of the show always. We'll get to this too, but I do think after a little bit of harsh takes last week, I would say secondary MVP of this episode is Sydney Sweeney. But I think that personally. Okay. But I do think that Rue does a lot in this episode, and we're in this interesting period now with Zendaya's character just kind of deciding where is she going to go, and constantly again, it reminds me a lot of season 1 Rue, because which again it's
she's in over her head
100%. She doesn't know what to do. She's terrified of being arrested, but at the same time she doesn't really have anybody or anything to fall back on at this point, which is very sad and tragic. And it's like, I still am praying in the back of my head that like we get something with Ali, because he's her saving grace always, constantly. So we need to see that kind of come back into play a little bit, I think.
Well, and I think the stakes are also raised because it used to be that she doesn't have anybody to fall back on because of her drug addiction. Yeah. But we've she's not doing drugs. She's completely past that. She's just in the cartel and like the fucking like drug ring, which is crazy. And like you sent me like a comment this morning of like people kind of getting a little bit of whiplash of like the different story worlds that we're in right now. It's entertaining though still. Do I think it all is one big circle that's going to make sense at the end of the show? I don't think so, but is it entertaining right now? Yes. I think that there was really great anticipation, especially in the poker scene.
Again,
amazing.
The chemistry between Apollo Brown and Rue has been the most palpable and the thing to chew on the most this season. And I think the producers know this because it does set the stage for the entire season with the whole back half of the premiere episode kind of focusing on this relationship between Rue and Apollo. And it's kind of interesting to see when they're at that poker game that he even has like this moment of care for Rue.
Yeah, like, oh, did you relapse?
Yeah, and being like, like don't do hard drugs because they'll fuck up your life.
Yeah.
Like, and he sees something in Rue where he knows that she has this quiet dignity about her and she has this leadership quality that he's like, I see this in myself. He says that in the premiere. And to get the moment between the two of them in this episode is great. But the whole convoluted thing now between Laurie's crew and his crew, it's like, I don't know where they're going to go with that either. And it's like, it's just constant back and forth between violent outcomes now where it's like, okay, well, what is this going to do overall for Rue? That's all I care about at this point. Rue, like, where are we going to go with her? Like, I don't know how this show ends for Rue. Like, I don't see a happy ending. But at the same time, it's like, don't we want a happy ending for Rue? Like, I don't know. Maybe I have a different thought process on it than you do.
I do. I want a happy ending for Rue, but unfortunately, I think she's now in that situation where there really is only two options, and it's either be safe in jail because she just says, like, take me to prison. I can't do this anymore. Or I think she gets killed. I just don't see how these like group of crazy people now between Maddy, Cassie, Nate, Lexi, and Jules are going to somehow all magically like Lego together and connect to save Rue. Like she's also on like a completely different level than all of them right now. Like, yes, Nate is having like extreme financial struggles and he's kind of involved in like a similar situation, but like Rue is now an informant for the FBI. Yeah. Like, that's crazy. And really, I don't think there's any way out of that unless you go into witness protection, prison, or you die.
Yeah. I mean, I agree.
I don't know.
No, I think that the most interesting thing that I'm asking now about the show, which I don't know if this is necessarily a good or a bad thing, it feels like very, very different shows tonally, and I'm sure our audience watching this probably doesn't even watch the other show I'm about to reference, but the way that the final season of The Boys is going right now, it's like very similar where I'm like, I just want to see what happens in the end. Like, I don't really care about these characters week to week anymore, which sucks because like you come from this point of the original versions of these shows where you're like tuning in week to week because you care about the characters in the story, and now you're just like, just get me to the end, man. Like, I just want to see where we're going to end up. And I think that, yes, this episode works better as a vehicle to drive the story forward.
The next 4 episodes.
But I still don't know where that puts us on, like, on the path. Like, Nate is still like, I don't know, man. I'm not getting Nate at all this season. I don't understand what is going on with him. He's obviously dealing with financial struggle, and it's like, is it just like, is it a mockery of Nate? Because Nate is a piece of shit in the first 2 seasons that we just want the audience to laugh at him and his struggles. But it's like, at some point that doesn't become fun anymore, and it doesn't become anything that even matters to me at all, regardless of how terrible of a human being Nate has been across the last 3 seasons. The most compelling thing to me out of this episode is I'm still so like, I cared the most about seeing what happens in the end with Maddy and Cassie, because that relationship has had the most peaks and valleys throughout 3 seasons. And now we've gone from this very awkward thing in episode 3 where Maddy barely gets any time, but she's clearly upset about what she's witnessing and the fact that her ex-boyfriend is marrying one of her former best friends, to now their whole wedding is thrown out. Their whole relationship is thrown out. Cassie sells the ring, and now Cassie and Maddy are on this journey together, and there's no element at least that I've seen. Maybe you've seen something different underlying that I'm not seeing. But there's nothing that is like vindictive. There's nothing that is being played as like something lurking in the shadows that either Maddie's going to do to Cassie or Cassie's going to do to Maddie. So that's the one where I'm like, I need to see how this ends, because like they can't be cordial in the end. Like if they are, I feel like it would actually maybe hurt. It would completely negate everything that came in season 2. Like it would just completely be like, okay, well, these are two completely different shows. Like, what are we doing going forward? You know,
my prediction with them is I don't think that there's going to be like revenge on Maddie's end. I think that Maddie just sees Cassie as a money cow right now, and she's like, I'm just going to use this girl to get money and get rich. She wants to get rich too right now, and I'm just going to use her and then dump her when I'm done. And I think that Cassie probably sees it more as like their friendship is coming back together, because she's just naive like that. And their one line that really stuck with me from this episode was when Cassie is talking to the other girl at the party, and the other girl asks like, oh, does Maddie rep you? And she says, yes. And then the girl says, that's weird. Why is that weird that Maddie reps Cassie? And like, I don't know if we've gotten the full scope of what Maddie's actually involved in yet. And like, why does everybody know who Maddie is? And like, is it just because she really works as the assistant to this like PR company, this management firm? Or is it that she is very heavy handed in like getting girls into the industry?
Yeah, I mean, we get a little bit of the backstory with that first girl that she kind of presents to the agency and is like, she's the future, this is the way things are going to go, and she's proven right when you see through Rue's narration that she winds up becoming worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and she's like one of the first OnlyFans models, all these things. I don't know if that has something to do with it, but I do agree that it's weirdly coded the way that is.
Yeah.
But then I also worry, and again, like this might be me reading it wrong, or again, it's because some of the production is shit on the show this season, that like, I understand the perspective on a surface level of being like, she just wants Cassie to be a cash cow because that would make sense. It's benefiting her, and Cassie is objectifying herself, which Maddie would never do. But there's something with the music that happens. We've talked a little bit about the music and how it's not fitting the show whatsoever. And this is not a dig on Hans Zimmer, because I think he's a terrific composer, but he does not fit the vibe of Euphoria whatsoever. But when Cassie is in the bedroom with the other girl and the guy who's hosting the party, there's like this troubling music that kind of hums over when Maddie realizes that Cassie's stuck in a locked room and she's not in control of the situation. So like, to me, that the way that plays is concerned. That doesn't play. Like, I thought the way that scene was going to play out, I thought she was going to wind up leaving her there, because they even show where Cassie's like, I don't know where, and like, she's kind of looking around like, I don't know where she is, and she seemed like a little worried about it. So I don't know what that relationship is and what that means. Like, I think that the problem is that the show is so poorly put together week to week that there are kernels of things that can make you feel excited to see the story go forward, but nothing is fully realized in even an episode by episode basis.
No.
That it's not enough to keep me being like, okay, I'm compelled by what I'm seeing. It's like, no, like, Zendaya is a very, very talented actor. Everything she's done that I have seen in my life has been good, even when she's given very little to do. But that's not enough to keep me motivated. And we're going to watch the show to the end, obviously.
Of course, yeah.
But it doesn't keep me motivated enough to care on the level that I used to care when this show was on years ago. And this is, even though these actors are now more polished, they've had more experience, and it's just really a credit to, or not a discredit to, the storytelling elements, because I don't know, we talked about this before we started recording. Yes, there are things, again, that are moving the story forward, but what is the overall, like, let me ask you this. What is the overall goal, like end goal and hope for you by the end of the season? Like, what do you want to get out of where we're going to go with Euphoria? Because for me, I don't even know what it is going into it. And I was hoping that that first episode at least gives you a style of something very different, where I felt like we both were like, well, it's different. Maybe that could be something. and yet it still feels so shallow in the worst ways that the first 2 seasons of Euphoria were, now injecting a bunch of random shit to try to encapsulate viewers week to week, and it's not doing it, at least from my perspective.
I don't know, but the thing that like we also that I keep seeing online is that they haven't said that this is the
I saw this.
It's the season finale, not the show finale. But Zendaya in press has said like she thought that this like most likely will be the last season, which makes me think like, does Rue die? And that's why Zendaya's might be done, but nobody else would be. I think that Sydney Sweeney would sign back on for another season. I do. I
would be so fucking pissed off if we get more of the show. I'm so sick.
I could see it. I could see Zendaya leaving. I could see a Laurie leaving. I don't know about Maude. She may just keep riding it because it's a paycheck at the end of the day and like something for her to keep doing. Hunter Schafer, I'd like to hope that she wouldn't sign back on for another season, but I don't know. I don't know what she's booking right now. I mean, I think that she's doing pretty well, but Alexa Demi, I mean, she hasn't not doing anything else. So,
which is a shame. I like Alexa.
I know. I would love for her to be able to do other things, but I don't know. I'm a little worried that they haven't said, but maybe they're just like waiting and they want people to just keep talking about the show.
Yeah, it's just that like if you're gonna take out like some of we've already lost a lot of central characters.
Yeah.
Like, from season 2 that are removing the identity of what the show is from this season. Again, some for obvious reasons, some for tragic reasons, some for reasons that we have no explanation of still to this day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't know if I would ever care again. I mean, Rue is the reason I'm watching the show. Like,
yeah.
Zendaya is the reason I'm watching the show. But I also completely understand why she wouldn't want to do it again. I mean, she's pretty much done everything she could possibly do with the character. I don't know. Again, like, I don't know what... I think Zendaya views this character as, like, this is a good acting exercise for me.
Yes.
To try to do something that is outside of my comfort zone. It certainly started as something that was juxtaposing her Disney career
100%
to show audiences that she was capable, which she's very capable of holding space with other actors that are, I don't want to say of higher caliber, but have more experience than she does, actors that she can provide more mature themes with. And now I feel like, I don't want to speak for Zendaya, so publicists don't come after me, but like, I can't imagine she is excited. Like, she was excited going into this because there's not much to chew on with what she's doing. She has the most to do, but there's not a lot going forward that is compelling me to just be like, all right, like, why do I want to see more of this show? It's completely lost its entire identity of what it started as in 7 years.
Yeah. The only thing that I can say is that it's the speculation that she made $1 million an episode.
I certainly would hope she did.
So that is a reason to go back for this final season. But I think that it's like, okay, I made $8 million. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to be done with it. But I had another thought, but another thing, maybe she doesn't die. Maybe it's like a bookend thing of how the first episode had like her in like that Christian farm home. Maybe she like is like, I want to go back there because those are the happiest people I've ever seen. And then she ends up like working on the farm there, which like would suck.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, even that, I feel like people were speculating on what that could mean, that could have symbolism of some kind. And it at least it was an interesting thought experiment for all of 1 week.
Yeah, but it like has no thread to any of the other storylines.
No.
So it's just weird.
Well, even this episode, we talked a little bit about the combining of characters again and how we were saying the wedding was kind of supposed to serve this point of how that was going to happen, right? Like they were going to bring everybody together again. And it nothing really comes to fruition with it. And then in this episode, we get a scene where literally all of them are together again. And I'm like, I thought this like was a very rare occurrence. Now we have Rue, Lexi, Maddy, and Cassie all in the same place again. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, so what, like, why is Rue going to Maddy asking for drugs? Like it all just feels, it feels very scatterbrained, and it feels like it was like first run through of scripts, and HBO was like, you're late on your deadline, Sam. And he's like, all right, let's just put all these through. let's push these through. So I don't know. I wish I had more to talk about.
I know.
When it came to the show, I will again go, because I mentioned this before. I do think the reason I said Sydney Sweeney was probably second MVP for me in this episode is because I like the little bit of banter we get between her and Nate. I do think that it's important to say, like, we needed a break from them together.
Yes.
That I agree with. Her pawning off her ring that quickly, interesting. Don't know about all that. But I do think that this is different with her story going from, like, the subjectivity of, or the exploitation of her being an OnlyFans model versus trying to build, like, a social following. And I think that the interesting aspect of the relationship between her and Maddy will at least drive the story forward more for me than just seeing her tits every week. Like, that's more what I'm looking forward to, is getting that element of that story and where that leaves us. But I mean, the whole thing with Laurie's crew too, like, I don't know, Toby Wallace is being wasted. I really like him as an actor. The whole thing now with Chloe Cherry's character and Rue are going to be at wits with each other. I don't know what that all means. Marshawn Lynch is being wasted. Like, there's so many things that I have a problem with this season that, I mean, I hope things turn around soon. And yes, this is the most compelling episode of the season thus far, but I think it's a pretty low bar, to be honest, with what we're getting in season 3 so far.
Yeah. Well, I think that we covered it all for this episode. Thank you for listening. Let us know what you guys think. If you're on the same wave as us, that this was the best episode of the season, but still there's a lot more for them to be working with. Or let us know if you absolutely are loving this season. If you think that this is exactly what you expected for the time jump, and that you are just loving where the characters are at. We'd love to hear from you guys. Also, please give this video a like. We are now over our last target of 1,000 subscribers. We made it, and we are now on our way to 2,000. So if you have not subscribed, we'd really appreciate it. Please give us a subscribe. And also, please follow us on social media if you don't already. All of that stuff is below me. And just signing off, I am Liz Seiko.
And I'm Darian Scalamoni.
Thanks for watching.
This is The Culture.